All right, guys, so week 5 is in the books of the Caps Gaming Showcase. I'm No Sleeves, he is Scheckel, and we are here to break down all that happened in week 5. We'll start with some numbers like we do every week. 60 teams now remain in the tournament, down from, I believe, 82 when we started. To break that down a bit more, we've got two 5-0 teams, so we know what's going to happen come schedule release. Dahlia and Turning Point will face off in week 6. We then have 14 4-1 teams, 23 3-2 teams, 18 2-3 teams, 2 1-4 teams, and 1 0-5 team. Shout out to the Misfits for sticking around. 7 out of the 33 series this week went 3, so it's down a little bit. Roughly 30% of all series last week went the full distance. This week down around 21%. A little bit interesting to see, as you thought that, or as we thought as that went on, it would increase, but this is the first week that it actually dipped. So let's start with the series that surprised the league. Take it away, Scheckel.
Yeah, we're going to start off with a banger. Ground and pound, outlasting Resilience and winning in 3. I don't think anyone saw Resilience losing this series, but they did. They won game 1, 3-2, and then Delta and his boys won games 2 and 3 by 2-1. I'm not sure if any of those went OT. I just know goals scored. So that was a pretty crazy series when I first saw that. Delta is West Coast, so I don't know if other people on his team in Ground and Pound were able to get West Coast hosts or what happened there. Not 100% sure, but I know Resilience has some West Coast guys too. But Resilience is now 3-2, and that's a team I would not want to match up with, being 3-2.
Oh, absolutely. They're another team like, well, spoiler, but BBB winning their series as well later on. Also now 3-2. It would be hilarious if they matched. Can they match? They can match. Can they not?
Match.
That
Yeah.
Man, I love this format, man. Like, I mean, there's only 23 teams, so I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility. But
yeah, and then another upset too. Jinx over Legacy in 2. Game 1 was 3-2. Game 2 was 4-3. I know McLovin has been missing from the lineup for Legacy. Is he the key to their success? But Legacy's now 3-2 as well, and that's another really good playoff team that has slipped to 3-2. So you got BBB, Resilience, Legacy. There's some other ones down there that we'll talk about a little bit later, but there's a lot of good 3-2 teams that are possibly could match up.
I wonder if it's just due to the fact that these teams, most of them, that are kind of surprising and looking lackluster so far, is just because the season's 8 weeks long and they know they're going to make the playoffs. And that come playoff time, that's when they buckle down. I mean, Legacy has looked kind of shaky the whole way through. Even the featured game of the week that we did with them a couple weeks ago, it took like roster changes and whatnot. And again, they lost the game that McLovin wasn't in. He came back in for game 2 and 3, which they won. So that'll be interesting to watch as well. But I just wonder if that, these teams, it would suck for a team to go, like say Dahlia wins out, for example, and, Legacy or BBB or Resilience, ends near the bottom just based on schedule or happenstance regardless. Like, I feel like Resilience, Legacy, or, would still be the favorite over Dahlia. Like, I wonder if, that changes here or that happens near the end. It would suck for a high team if one of these guys just kind of, face off against each other because they, lost a few early. But
Right. It would be a really tough round 1 or round 2 matchup, which you're hoping to see in maybe round 3.
Mm-hmm.
Next one is Kangaroo Court sweeping the Fantastic Boys. Props to the boys of Kangaroo Court, bouncing back after losing the Donkey Bowl.
The Donkey Bowl.
Hey,
yes.
You're the one that called it that.
I know. I came up with that in seconds, and now I love it.
It's great. And then we also had 5.5 Men getting a forfeit win over Ninth Wonder, which is huge for them. Ninth Wonder is a pretty good team. They slipped down, and probably a matchup that they could have won or possibly won. And then the last one that surprised me was Louisville Lightning sweeping Crease Crashers. I did not see that coming.
Louisville Lightning continuing to impress. Let's go.
They've had a couple times in here. They've made this segment of series that surprise. So
yeah.
They're doing well for themselves.
On to the featured game of the week, which did include yourself and Entourage versus Composure. It did go 3 games like most people did or would have predicted. However, none of them went to OT, which I for sure thought we would see. Just when I was play-by-play calling, and I figured that for sure. But it was Composure taking game 1 2-1 over you guys, and then in game 2 3-0, a really impressive game 2 for Entourage, and then a 4-3 win for Entourage in game 3 that featured, I believe, 3 or 4 lead changes. I don't think anyone really got out.
Yeah.
You guys kept scoring back and forth.
Yeah.
But no OT games is pretty big.
Yeah, we took the lead that they would tie it. We took the lead, they tied it. So it was pretty crazy.
All right, so outside of yourself, obviously, who impressed you the most in that series?
Yeah, I think for Composure, I was really impressed with Mark Oko's 5-hole. He had a great series, in my opinion. I felt like he was getting open for shots, reading our zone entries very well, and stopping the dump-ins, reading those and helping Mark out on his side. I thought he just had a really good game for Composure. And then for our team, I thought J Claus was a very quiet player in the series. He's typically a quiet player. He doesn't make huge plays, but usually isn't never one to make mistakes either. And you may not call his name out a lot doing play-by-play, but I really believe he's like the glue to Entourage's play style. He kind of covers for everybody, kind of fills in. We kind of play a run and gun, free-flowing kind of system, and he covers for a lot of people. And I thought he played really well.
No, I'm glad that you touched on both of them. Margot's 5-hole in the because excuse me, Composure has been the game of the week more than once already, and he's definitely been the best offensive threat that I've seen probably in any of the featured games of the week. He has scored just this deadly play that they have where he's basically sitting on the goal line, and unless you hug your post when you're going side to side, he's been able to hit that a couple times now. And I've seen him, Tendi, and Nick kind of work that. Looks very good, and he has looked great so far. Same thing with Josh as well. I noticed it, and I said this on the broadcast during it. I've watched Josh a ton over the last 2-3 years in LG, and yeah, I didn't notice him at all offensively in game number 1, which might have coincided with the fact that you guys lost that one, but then definitely made his presence felt after that. But speaking of J Claus, we do have him for an interview to go over everything in regards to the featured game of the week of Composure versus Entourage. So let's bring him on right now. All right, guys. So since Composure did lose to Entourage, and you guys are sick of hearing Scheckel, talk about them, I thought that we would grab the most vanilla personality in all of Sixes, Josh Claus, to discuss his team's big win. All right, Scheckel. So take it away with Josh Claus.
As some people may not know, I don't listen to the party or talk to the team during the games, so I do not know what was being said throughout the series. After game 1, there was some frustration within the team. What caused that frustration, and what was changed or discussed to bounce back and take game 2?
Okay, well, yeah, I would say normally we do pretty well about staying mellow, and I mean we're just playing a video game at the end of the day, but that was probably the most annoyed I've ever been with Hendry specifically. I'll break my vanilla standard and say that I could not stand listening to another second of him telling us to dump the puck in, and I was just over it. So yeah, we were a little bit frustrated, but we kind of were like, okay, well, in my head anyway, I was like, okay, he's being really annoying, but he's also right. So let's try and change up how we're playing.
Did that happen at the end of game 1? Because when I was doing the play-by-play, I've watched you play quite a bit over the course of the last 2 years, but you weren't it was all Hendry and Lucas. Hendry and Fisher. Sorry, it was all Hendry and Fisher basically that touched the puck in the offensive zone essentially in that first game. I didn't notice you at all. I know you're very good defensively, but offensively you weren't really involved until the second and third game.
Well, part of that is sometimes when I play with these guys is I have to kind of speak up and tell them to just give me the puck because they're so used to just passing to themselves that they don't think about their center. So sometimes I just kind of have to speak up and I'm like, okay, guys, you have someone in the middle that can do a lot of good stuff. So just give me the puck and you guys get open and I'll make stuff happen. But also the first game, so the one change that I made really was I just went way bigger the second and the third game because they had a full team of just giant builds, and we kind of got bullied in the first game. So I made myself bigger, and we just changed our whole strategy between games 1 and 2, and it obviously paid off because we dominated game 2, and then we're able to win game 3 as well.
No, for sure. No, I definitely noticed a big change after game 2 because I even said it on the broadcast. Is like, I don't even know if I said your name in the first game really. So, no, that makes sense though.
Yeah. So after winning game 2, what was the mindset for you and the team going into game 3?
Well, we were confident. I mean, I guess Composure is a team that we like playing because it's such a contrast in styles. It's like uh, just true run and gun versus a straight trap. And frankly, in the last like 3 years, I don't think we've lost a single series to them. So we were all just confident about when the decisive game came down to it, we would be able to make a play. And fortunately, we did. It was not the type of game we were expecting to play. It was like 5-4 or something. But
Yeah, that one was pretty crazy. Did you find that like if they score first, it's like much different? Just because of the way they play? Because, like, I noticed that every game that I've done with them, if they score first, it's kind of, like, not over, but because it's so, like, very, very hard to get into their zone. You're the second team in the featured game of the week that has literally started dumping the puck, which is, like, just something you don't really see, not very common in sixes at all. So you were the second team to do it because I believe Infinity got frustrated so to the point where that's the only way they would break in. So would that be like fair to say that like getting down on these guys makes it like that much harder?
yeah, I would say that like you go down, and so your first thought is obviously you want to try and tie it up, but then they get to settle into their style, which is just to sit back and trap and trap and trap. So once we get up, we're kind of able to just go, go, go. And that's our style, is to play run and gun normally. But when that wasn't fully working, you start to dump the puck in, and it goes against everything that I stand for basically, because it's so like, I don't know, I feel like it's the coward's play. But if it works so well, you kind of have to give it a try every once in a while, and we were getting to it every time, so it was like, well, let's
It
just
was
keep
pretty
trying.
crazy. You guys' success rate on the dump in was pretty crazy. I'm not gonna lie.
And I guess, yeah, part of that is probably because of the difference in builds. Like I
Yeah,
said, all,
wasn't like Fish and Hendry like at like under like 5'10"?
yeah,
I didn't
They're
notice
both
that until
5'7".
John said something crazy like they were like 5'7" or something. I was like,
They were
what?
5'7" all 3 games.
That's
Yeah.
crazy when you compare
yeah.
to like everyone else. So like, that makes a little bit more sense as to why that might work. But that might be something that a lot of people might start using against Composure. To be honest with you.
Yeah. So going on to the next question here, Josh. Entourage is looking great with their goal differential and currently third in the regular season if the season ended today. What is one area you hope to improve in as we get closer to playoffs?
I guess honestly, the big thing would be holding on to leads after last.
Yeah, we had a little bit of scare there in game 3.
Pretty sure we blew the lead like 4 different times, but no, I don't know. I think we've played pretty well mostly. Our one loss was like we played a good team in the Phantoms, but we also were playing at a weird situation, missing guys playing on weird connections and whatnot. So I think we're just looking forward to hopefully clinching a playoff spot this week, and then going from there, just holding our goal differential so we can stay in the top spot for whatever record we finish with. Because as it is now, whatever record we have, we're going to be the top seed of that record. So
Thank
just,
you, Beerville Farmers. Or whatever.
yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. All right. Last question for us. Not picking your own team. Who would be your 4 favorites to make the LAN?
Okay. Well, I would say that I'll go with 2 that I think are for sure going to be at least in the top 8 in resilience and composure. I'm sure a lot of people, if you ask them, would say those 2.
Mhm.
And then for the top 4, I think I'll go off the board a little bit. And I think one of legacy or prophecy will make it, one or the other. And then 4th, maybe turning point. I honestly, as much as I've played top tier 6s, I don't know a ton of the team. So
They're like the
I'd like to
least
know
talked
first
about
that.
or like known about, like that, like they're undefeated and like there's literally no one talking about them other than just that, like,
Yeah.
okay, if you're naming 4, they're usually the 4th team named. But
Yeah,
it just seems like everyone's just like, yeah, I haven't seen a ton of it. It just seems to be the common theme with them.
well, I know from playing against them a lot, they're like one of the most difficult teams to play against if their roster is the same as it was over the past year or two, because they just pass so quickly. It's like a really effective style, but very few teams kind of do that. It's like touch passing between all 5 guys on the team. It's very hard to keep up with as a center. Like when I play on Xbox, it's kind of easy to play defense because I can just go around
and bump,
hit it. Everybody can just bump everybody off the puck, but with them, they don't give you enough time to really do that. So they're one of the hardest teams to play against. So I would say they're, even though they're undefeated, they're kind of a dark horse for that.
Fair enough, man. Well, I'd like to thank you for coming on and talking to us, so I don't need to hear Scheckel talk anymore about his own team. And good luck the rest of the way, bud.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks, Josh.
All right, so again, thanks to Josh for coming on to talk to us. Do appreciate it. Again, we'd like to try and have someone from the winning team from the featured game of the week every week to come on and discuss their matchups. So let's get back to the rest of the league. Let's discuss what's the best 2 and 3 team that you think currently will make the playoffs, Sheck.
Yeah, so depending on matchups, of course, but I feel like these 2 teams have the best chance of still getting there, and that's going to be the Forgotten. We talked about them multiple times already.
Literally every week
this week. I know they won their matchup this week, but I think they still can do it. As long as 1v1 events don't get in the way for this team and they can get their full lineup, I still think they're one of the best 2 and 3 teams to make the playoffs. The other team is going to be Response. All 3 of their losses have come to 4-1 teams, so they've had a tough schedule. This is a good team. They just took Prophecy to 3 games and had chances to win that series as well. So those are my 2 favorites out of that.
Speaking about the Forgotten and being heavily involved in the esports scene, I can already tell you that not next week, but the weekend following is that kind of gauntlet weekend where there's the Montreal, Minnesota, and Tampa Bay qualifiers. I know for a fact that, first of all, Nuke will be traveling to Minnesota, I believe, on this Saturday. And then you've got Mivs and Fool, who will probably be at the Montreal LAN on Friday, but I know that I believe they're going to the game on the Saturday, so I'm not really sure how that's going to work. And we mentioned this before, one more loss from them, and that's pretty much it. As they might have fixed their goal differential in that last series, but still, that's going to be tough for them because one more forfeit makes them at 4 losses, and that's kind of the bare minimum you can have. So that'll be something to watch. Not this week coming up, I believe, but the following weekend. Yes, that would be the one that it'll be interesting to see how they make that work because I'm not sure how they're all going to be there for that one. So, kind of a crazy stat here. If the season ended today, 7 of the 3 and 2 teams would be out of the playoffs, and these 7 teams are at 0 or below goal differential. However, there are 5 teams with a 2 and 3 record and a positive goal differential. Just kind of crazy to see as goal differential now starts to become more and more important as you're matching up against teams that are kind of in your range. It's going to become even more and more important now as we move along to make sure that if you're up, you don't just sit back and wait for a win. You need to go and hammer your opponent because you might not get a chance later on the next few weeks to kind of, really do some damage on your goal differential as there's only a few teams with a huge one, and that's really just BBB and Entourage. I believe even Composure's goal differential is really low, and that's because they've had just an insane schedule.
Hidden Potential has a really good goal differential as well.
Okay, Hidden Potential as well. Oh, you are correct on that one as well, yeah. But yeah, that will be something that will be interesting to watch going forward.
Yeah, and currently Legacy is one of those 3 and 2 teams that is sitting out of the playoffs because they have a -5 goal differential.
That's wild. I really like it would. I mean, their team does not seem to be a team at all. And it just seems to be, 6 or 7 very good players that are just kind of meshed. Because we mentioned that earlier. There's a lot of turnover with this team, with Gren coming in. It's just like, I wonder. I don't see a way in which they do not make the playoffs.
Right.
But it'll just be interesting to me is that once they're in the playoffs, if they start to buckle down and actually play together a lot more, that it would make a drastic difference. But Another huge week though for the 3-2 teams. 23 teams. One will get lucky and get a 2-3 team, but there is a lot of talented teams in this slot, and this is kind of that middle portion before you get to week 7 and 8 where you really got to create separation. So this week's super important because you lose this one and you've got to jump over teams and hope for losses. But yeah, so give me some insight on that.
Yeah, I looked at all 23 teams, and at least half, if not more, of these teams that are sitting at 3-2, I would have expected to make playoffs at the beginning of the season. And with random matchups, this could be a very, very interesting week 6. This will definitely rate the teams that are going to guarantee themselves a spot, and or you might need to get lucky with some random matchups, and a team that's not expected to make playoffs moves to 4-2 because they have easier matchups. This week 6 could be a huge turning point for this tournament as a whole.
Turning point. I see what you did there. All right, so just like we did last week, let's give our top 5 teams that we think are in the current standings that are, let's say they're power rankings. If you don't know what power rankings are, they're basically rankings that don't only include standings but also include recency bias and just overall talent and performance and expectation. So let's start out with yours at number 5.
Yeah, at number 5, I have Prophecy. They have been quietly doing their job and winning series, albeit 3 of their 4 wins have been in 3, which is pretty crazy. But their only loss is a forfeit to Dahlia, so they have a pretty good track record.
No, absolutely. My number 5 is Infinity. I think that they've had a really tough schedule so far as well. But I think that they are going to be extremely dangerous as it goes along, and they play together a little bit more as the season kind of progresses. But yeah. Number 4, we've got yourself, Entourage, and I've got Composure, oddly enough. I'm not really I'm not going to spoil it, but give me a reasoning as to why yourself is at number 4.
Yeah, I think we had a huge bounce back win after our loss to Phantoms. We had a huge win against Composure, which was both of ours number 1 ranked last week. I have us here just because I don't think our schedule has been as impressive, or our wins haven't been as impressive. Besides, this Composure win is a really good one for us. So hence I have us down at 4.
No, absolutely. I have Composure at 4 simply because you guys beat them prior to that. But yeah, their schedule is ridiculous. I do not see a way in which they do not go undefeated the rest of the way, just because of all of the teams that they've played so far. They no longer have to play again. And they're really going to get matched up with, again, probably next week you'll have like potentially the loser of the Dahlia game with Turning Point. But then after that, like, they can't play you guys, they can't play Infinity. Like, it's going to be very interesting to see, because their schedule is definitely front loaded, and their only loss is to kind of the consensus other top 4 team and you guys. So at number 3, like I said, I have Entourage, you have Composure. Give me the reason why you had Composure a little bit higher.
Yeah, I still feel like they're the best team in this tournament. Although we did beat them, I think their loss is a quality loss to us. Meanwhile, like, I think our loss to Phantoms is not as high quality, just because I think everyone would be consensus that Composure is the number 1 team. So, and a lot of people have us up there as well. So I just think Composure's schedule as a whole is more impressive than ours, and that's why I have them above us.
No, absolutely. And I agree with you. Like I said, the only reason I have them higher is just because you beat them, but you two, you can flip-flop back and forth either way. So on to number 2, both the same. We've got Dahlia, one of the only 5-0 teams remaining. They won an ugly defensive series over the Phantoms. Lots of trapping and tossing shots on net, but that's kind of what they do. Nothing really new there in terms of game, or as far as gameplay changes, is that's what they're just going to keep doing, is just a kind of an ugly way to play, but it's very effective as they are 5-0 and will take on our consensus number 1. Take it away, buddy.
Yeah, that's going to be Turning Point. They had a little bit of a scare in week 4 against Easy Work, winning in 3 all 1-goal games, but they had a really, really impressive week this week against Natty Light Knights and beating them, I think, 6-2 and 7-1. So they had a really good week.
I think that kind of showed two things, as well as their dominant performance over them, which is good. It also fixes their, helps with their goal differential, things like that. But Night Knights has been a team that has hung around and been undefeated near the top the whole way, and they finally have to go up against someone extremely difficult. One of the consensus top 4 or 5 teams in the tournament, and just not there quite yet. They could get there. But yeah, their colors did show a little bit more. It did look a little bit more one-sided when it came to that, and we'll have to see what they do in the rebound in their tough matchup in week 2. And they could be sitting with 2 losses, so we'll have to wait and see. Last thing I want to discuss real quick is Montage Moment getting absolutely demolished by Nothing to Prove. 3-2. They still got to win 2 more probably, so we'll have to wait and see on that one. But yeah, guys, thank you for watching. That was everything that we deemed important, I guess, in week 5. And we will see you guys in a few days for the schedule release and the preview of week 6. Have a good one, guys.
Should be a good one.